Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for tuning in. I do greatly appreciate it. For those who are just tuning in, seeing me on LinkedIn and or YouTube, my name is Eric Taylor. I am the CEO, owner, and chief forensic operator here at Barricade Cyber Solutions. We've been working on a tool for the past week and wanted to bring it to you, let you know what it's all about and kind of why I put this together. So a lot of um, a lot of research people, IT people, CISOs, things of that nature, you always see the vulnerabilities getting posted out there called CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exploits that are available for, let's just say hypothetically, take a piece of technology, your router, your phone, this Yeti cup, not really Yeti cup, but there's a vulnerability. Someone was able to make the application do something that it wasn't supposed to do and gave a response that it wasn't supposed to give originally. This manifests in different ways, like giving permissions to a device that is supposed not to have. This could be your local device, it could be your printer, it could be something on the internet. 9 times out of 10 it is. So always trying to migrate or navigate, I should say, navigate this landscape can be very problematic. And we'll dive into this right now. So I'm going to bring up my screen, and it's going to, here you'll see we have CVEs by CVE details. So we can look literally by the date. And I'm going to migrate my screen around just for a moment, just to make the real estate a little bit bigger and easier for everybody to see. So here, you can break it down by year, by month, and go forth and so on. So you can see over the course of a year, last year we had 40,000 CVEs, or over 40,000, right? So if we just go in and say, okay, what's been going on this month? Okay, we have a ton of CVEs, right? And CanMan or ConMan and Popper. There's a lot of technology that is out there right now that has potential vulnerabilities associated with it. And forgive me if you're been around the circuit for a while, if you will, and you're trying to figure out all these different things. Max CVSS score is the severity of this type of impact, which this one is a 6.2, which is kind of bad. It's not critical, but it's pretty bad. If you're in the Kaniko's experience, this one is a 7.2. This is definitely starting to get into a more of a severity type of thing. Let's just take a vendor. Fortinet has definitely had a lot of stuff that's been going on with it lately. And here we can see there's a lot of stuff that's going on with Fortinet. Thankfully, not a whole lot compared to some of the other ones that we see. We have one buffer overflow vulnerability this year, 11 cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, and a lot of that is very, very technical, and that's really not the point of this show, or at least this episode that we're going to talk about, right? There's a lot more people that are more advanced, can speak to it much more intelligently than I can, as I'm kind of stepped away from a lot of the hacker roles. But if we take another look at, say, Synology is always a good one. A lot of times your NAS devices, things of that nature. So you see there's a ton that's going on there. Um, you get the point, right? So you can look up by any vendor that's out there and see what's kind of going on with them from a day-to-day, year-to-year standpoint. Now, taking that one step further, it's like, okay, we know about a CVE. We kind of know the impact a little bit. Um, but is there an exploit for this? And that's what CISA or CISO has created the KEV, and it is CISA, sorry, which is Known Exploit Vulnerability Catalog. So we take those CVEs that were just posted up there a moment ago, and we start looking at, okay, is that CVE actively being exploited? And we can start going down through the list, right? When was it added? And CISA's recommending that this thing needs to be updated by the by Friday, actually, for this particular vulnerability that was Ivanti. I never get this product name right ever. Um, but there's Secure ZTA with zero trust application. You got Apache Tomcat, which is a web server that could run on Windows and or Linux. You have some Cisco. So CISA puts out this this KEV, or what we call KEV in the industry, or Known Exploit and Vulnerability Catalog, to say, okay, not only is it a CVE, we have an active proof of concept for this. We need to get this thing patched for municipalities, for government sectors, things of that nature, and be able to get these things properly patched in, right? So there's anytime you go in and you're like, okay, we're getting a lot of information from different sources, and we just need to really break this thing down. What do I need to know? And be able to make this thing very, very easy for anybody to digest. And this is where we really came up. I know this is not the first tool of its kind, granted. Our friend, if you're part of Simply Cyber, I call friend DJ B Segment, he created some Python scripts to create, command line version of this in early elementary. But we came up with a EPSS Lookup Tool, right? So this really is just exploit prediction scoring system, right? So we're saying, okay, you have your CVE, you have a KEV. How likely is this to be exploited? All right, let's take a step back. How likely is my phone to be impacted by a vulnerability, right? How likely is my Androids? Let's just take a hypothetical. A iOS Chrome browser exploit. Okay. I personally don't use the Chrome browser on my Android or on my Apple phone. I do use it sometimes on my burner Android phones, but on my iOS, I don't, because it's part of the company ecosystem, and I just don't do that. So an iOS Chrome vulnerability is not going to be very impactful for me, as we don't use that software. Now, let's say hypothetically you use ring.com. And again, I'm just throwing out fictitious things. I'm not saying anything negative about any one company. But let's just say hypothetically you have ring.com and their doorbell is able to be viewed through a website through an unauthorized manner. AKA, you could put in, like, instead of saying google.com and going to Google's website or Yahoo or whatever the case is, you just do ring.com / and a bunch of characters, and you can just start looking at people's front door web camera without logging in. Now, that's a major, major problem if you have Ring doorbell or potentially any Ring device. If that vulnerability was there, you need to start evaluating your whole system. So this is where the EPSS came in. It's like, how likely, in a broad sense of everything, is this going to be impactful for you and your organization? And this is really taking it with a grain of salt. You always have to apply it. Let's just say one that's been known for many, many years, Java, right? And we're not talking about coffee, but the application, the web graphic of Java, right? If you have a Java vulnerability on your workstation, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be massively impactful. It's like, yes, you need to get it taken care of. Where does that rank on your severity scale? It's probably not going to be very high, right? If you have it on a web server, that's a lot higher, especially if that Java is being used to render and produce content for your web application. That is almost a critical, right? Depending on what the severity is. So, again, taking into consideration what is the application being used for, where is it in your ecosystem, is it public facing, is it private facing, where is everything at? Adjust this EPSS score to your specific use case. And with that, we'll kind of get over to it. And again, I wanted to make this tool extremely, extremely simple, right? So in this, we'll kind of zoom in here. So in this EPSS score, you literally would just put in a CVE number here, and it will populate the data for you, right? So we come down, the EPSS score is 0.003. Again, taking it from the other CVE, I was just taking items in here. You kind of look at the description, anything before 13.0 is potentially affected. Here, I always wanted to make sure that I put in a couple extra references when you're looking this up. So you're not just looking at one source, you're looking at multiple sources for this tool to get a broad understanding of this particular thing, right? When was the last updated? Is this on the CISA KEV? And when was it published? Some references. We have a graph here of talking, about your attack vector, the complexity, your privilege. You get the kind of idea. So if we take this from this one here, which, let's see, is there an easy way just to copy this? It should be. Okay, we'll do it the hard way. There we go. And this is just literally, if you've been told about a CVE, you're going to want to come over here and say, okay, what is the latest and greatest on this thing, right? So, this is a 9.44. It's getting up there. You definitely have a criticality of 9 out of 10 on this. It is on the KEV. If you want to quickly reference the KEV link, this will automatically take you to it. And that way you can be able to get more full details on this particular one. When was it released by, or when the due date was. So when you're supposed to have this thing fully patched, which seems to be potentially a conflict, but I'll have to dig into that one. There's another reference link for it, but it's giving you, again, a real quick summary of everything that's going on. And you can find this tool literally at EPSSLookupTool.com. We also have EPSLookup.com, but whichever one is familiar or easier for you to remember, definitely take it in. There, one other thing, a lot of IT folks were saying that, hey, this will be really good if we can just copy and paste this into Notepad, because this is a lot of information readily available to us. And I don't want to just have to copy and paste and reformat and everything. So let's just take this particular one. At the very bottom of every CVE that you put together, you can literally say copy the results, and just like that, this will be popped right into a Notepad or text editor of your choice. So that way you could be able to use this and be able to push this out internally so everybody has the information for quick digestion. Anyway, I hope that was beneficial to you. I hope this tool is be able to give you some insight and be able to save you a little bit of time when you're trying to find critical information about a CVE with more information there. Again, this tool is supposed to be very simple, supposed to be really easy to be able to get a hold of information. If you like it, if you have any recommendations, definitely drop them down there in the comments in YouTube and LinkedIn, so that way I can check it out and maybe consider that as a feature request for future versions coming up. Until next time, y'all take care of yourselves. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see y'all in the next one. See y'all next time.
There once was a kid whose passwords laid across all sites. They were the same, a criminal, then found their fame by taking that data to go. Soon may a criminal come to steal your pictures and data and run. One day when the crime is done, they'll steal